It is morning here anyway. It's Thursday morning, and today I want to do a short YouTube video all around setting boundaries as a teacher. I think that if you are going to go anywhere with your career in teaching, but still want to sort of look after yourself and prioritize yourself outside the classroom, then this is the number one tool you can put in place to see the results that you want to see. When I first started teaching 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I absolutely had no boundaries, zero boundaries. And what would happen is I would get to the Wednesday, Thursday of the week, and I would be hitting burnout so intensely. I would feel absolutely drained and exhausted. And yet again, I'd missed all of my workouts. I was eating rubbish. And it'd get to the weekend, I was bloated, uncomfortable. I had severe stomach pains, stomach cramps, and I just wasn't prioritizing myself. My sleep was out of whack. And the only time that I sort of started to see a change was when I set boundaries in these areas within my teaching career. And it wasn't just sort of the physical boundaries that I had to set. I had to go much deeper and start to set some boundaries, like mental boundaries, to put in place to really help myself sort of compartmentalize the career from my life. Because as we know, teaching really does take over as a lifestyle rather than it just feeling like a career. So it's us understanding when it is acceptable for it to do that and when we can sort of take hold of that and stop that happening and kind of having that impact. So these are some of the things that I did to make sure that I could set those boundaries in these different areas. So boundaries, I feel like, it's a word that gets thrown around a lot, and there's different areas that you need to set them in, but I think having really clear boundaries is so important because it allows you to know when something is okay and when something's not. Like, we know in life things aren't as black and white as we would like them to be. So I think having really clear, set and explicit boundaries is super useful in life, in day to day, especially around your career like teaching, that can quite easily take over, because it really allows you to sort of navigate when it's okay for something to happen and take over a little bit, when it's not okay, when it's okay for you to pull away. And if you've got these literally written down somewhere so you can come back to them time in, time out, whenever that might be, then it means that you can really dive into how that can help you build your career, but at the same time allow you to work on yourself too, and not feel guilty when you're making these choices. Because I think there's a lot of guilt around teaching, and it can be really tricky when we get that feeling of guilt and apprehension because we've chosen to put ourselves first over something else or over a different role. Now, the first area that I think is incredibly important with boundary setting is, number one, those physical boundaries. So physical boundaries are boundaries such as allowing yourself and sort of taking control and ownership of the physical time you spend in that building of school on doing work compared to that time you spend on you during the Monday to Friday and Saturday to Sunday, because I know the work creeps in over the weekend and I know you're doing it sat there on a Saturday or a Sunday night, and it really starts to come in. Now, if this is you, the first thing I want you to look at is how much of your week are you actually spending on work? So are you doing work every single day of the week? If that's a yes, and this is the first boundary you need to set, is that you are going to give yourself one day in the week where you do absolutely nothing. So whether that's a Saturday or a Sunday, you do absolutely nothing. You don't turn on your laptop, you don't turn on your emails, you don't look at your phone if they've got emails on there, you don't look at Class Dojo, you don't allow anything else to go into your routine, because you're giving yourself that day off. Now, having that one day off is so important. A, for a mental reset, having a reset in terms of that your mental health is super important. And B, it allows you to remind yourself that there's more to life than those four walls of the classroom and to you as a teacher. You are not defined as a teacher. Your worth is so much more than that. You are more of a human than that. And actually, you will show up as a better version of you and a better teacher if you've got those. You know that you have got more to you than what you are inside of that classroom. So setting that boundary of giving yourself at least one day where you don't turn on any emails or work or do anything like that. The aim is to get to the point where you give yourself a weekend and you don't look at anything over a Saturday and Sunday. That is the aim, but we can build to that and we can get to that. But definitely start with at least one day where you're not doing anything. That needs to be a physical boundary that you're 100% are putting in place to prevent yourself from getting from A to B and stopping teaching creeping into your life all of the time. It's so important to have that switch off over the weekend. The next boundary that I really want you to start to think about is the physical access the job has to you. Now, if you have emails pinging through on your phone, if you are logged into Class Dojo on your personal phone, you're not going to have a work phone as a teacher. I know you're not. Then you need to get that out your life. If you don't have a personal laptop compared to a school laptop, then you need to get that school laptop away from you at the weekends, and you need to invest in one for yourself when you want to use it for personal things. That's so incredibly important. Reason being is because if the emails are readily accessed via notification to your phone, somebody else is controlling when you see something, or when you see a notification or something like that pops up. You have got no control over that. That means you could be enjoying your Saturday brunch out with the girls or with your partner, going on a lovely walk on a sunny Saturday afternoon, and then all of a sudden, ping, because someone else is assigned to work on a Saturday afternoon, you've been hit with this email where you start panicking and stressing, you feel like it's urgent, you can't switch off for the rest of the night. It's just not good for your mental health and mental clarity. And again, it's impossible to have that switch off day if you are allowing things like notifications from emails, or even worse, Class Dojo come through on the weekend. Now, Class Dojo is another story. Don't get me started on that. I think this invention, it's got so many pros to it, yes, but also so many cons that parents feel like it is A, appropriate, and B, it's that teachers are that accessible that you can literally message. It's like a text message service. You can literally message teachers from your phone like that. Now you need to take control of that and set that boundary. Do not have it on your phone. If you have Class Dojo on your phone, you are basically allowing parents an insight into your life and to be able to message you. It doesn't matter what platform it is, it's basically messaging you whenever the hell they want, which means they can creep into your thought processes, they can creep into your well-being. It's sometimes something you've got to do. Do not let them have that access to you. You have that cut off. Only have Class Dojo on work material. So things like your iPad with work, your laptop with work, and you are only going to check it through school hours, because you should only be responding to Class Dojos Monday to Friday. You should not be responding to them at the weekend. That needs to be an absolute boundary. The third physical boundary that we are going to set in place is that 2 days a week, you are going to leave that building early just to do something for you, whether that's going to a Pilates class in the evening, whether that's going to a gym class in the evening, whether that's coming home and chilling out for the night and having a nice bubble bath and working on yourself, depending on what your energy levels are. You are going to leave that building 2 days a week early enough to come home and actually have an evening. So you can pick those 2 days. Do you want it to be a Friday and a Tuesday, a Friday and a Wednesday, a Monday and a Thursday, whatever that might be, whatever works for you? Build that in so you're having a cut off, you're leaving that building at 4:30 latest to get home and actually enjoy your evening, and you're going to do nothing for the whole entire evening. That might seem crazy, but I promise you, once you start being more productive with your time, which I'm going to build into a different video, you will start having more time for you. And that's sort of like how we're really building teaching. It's about sort of understanding how you can utilize the time you've got as well as you can and still have a life outside of it. It's so important that you start to navigate that time for you and start to understand how you can pull and put things in different areas and be as productive as possible, but give yourself that time to leave early 2 days a week at least, so you've got that time for you. Why is this important? You cannot keep going on a roller coaster of working till 10 p.m. at night and then getting up and being in the building by 7:30 again the next day. 10 p.m. 7:30, 10 p.m. 7:30. A, you're going to start resenting the job. B, you're going to show up in an absolute exhausted way. C, you tell me how you can teach a lesson in the best way possible when you feel that exhausted. It is not possible. You are thinking that you're being selfish by leaving that building early, but actually you're being selfless, because you are going to be able to put more into that job. You're going to be able to put more into those lessons. You're going to be able to put more energy into your delivery. And trust me, the more energy you put into the delivery of a lesson, the more those children will be engaged, no matter what the hell you're talking about, because they respond on your vibe. Have you ever gone in and you've had a really bad day, then all of a sudden there's like 3 children in the classroom kicking off about something, and people aren't focusing or concentrating, and you just put it down to one of those days? You start to blame the children, but actually a lot of the time it's because your attitude, you've come in with that attitude and you've come in with sort of feeling a little bit negative, and we know that your vibe has an impact. Your moods are sort of like, it's a bit like contagious, isn't it? When someone's very stressed around you, you feel it and pick up on it, and children are so sensitive to this. The problem is they can't articulate that. They wouldn't be able to understand that because my teacher's stressed or anxious or on edge, I feel like that, but they vibe off it, they rub off it straight away, because they pick up so well on things like non-verbal communication. They pick up so well on things like how you talk to them, the little things that you say. They'll be able to tell if something's off. So do yourself a favor, make your life easy, easier. Get a good night's sleep, go and do something for you at least 2 days a week so you come back in feeling refreshed, ready to go and enjoy the job, because we know you love the job. It's just the exhaustion from it that can be really challenging and really, really hard. The third boundary that you're going to set is to only allow these things to move if it is a major concern. So when I say leave early 2 days a week, it's very difficult. And I know this is going to be your argument. What do you do if safeguarding concern comes up? What do you do if there's a big issue with so-and-so and I need to upload everything onto CPOMs, whatever? I get it. And yes, in teaching, this is the problem. You cannot be that clear cut with things. But what I need you to do is sort of have a list of rules of when it's okay to let these things creep in and take over. So for example, if it's a safeguarding concern, then of course you might not be able to leave at 4:30 that day. For example, if it's something absolutely urgent that needs to be sorted for tomorrow, then yes, you may not be able to leave at that 4:30 that day. But there is not that many things that are completely urgent in teaching that allows you to justify not giving yourself at least 2 days a week where you can leave a little bit earlier and only do an 8-hour day. Like, that is realistic. It's probably a 9-hour day by the time you leave at 4:30 anyway. It's realistic, okay? You should be able to do that as a teacher. You should be able to do that in your job. It's not something that you're doing wrong, and set those boundaries to allow yourself to do it. So, a little recap on physical boundaries so far. At the weekend, you're going to have at least one day where you don't do anything because you deserve to have a little bit of a break. You deserve to have a little bit of a rest. Over the weekend and in the week nights, you are going to make sure that people can't access you unless you choose to. So that means, yes, deleting the email app on your phone, deleting Class Dojo off your phone, and you are going to take control of that because we are not controlled by notifications and other people and what they want to achieve. Number 3 is to make sure that you're controlling and that time you're contacting parents. So parents should accept and understand that they are only contacted during working school hours, and that is absolutely a-okay. And over the weekend and late into the evenings, they shouldn't feel like they should be able to message teachers. And I understand if they've had a long day at work and they're messaging you after that evening, but then parents should be good enough to understand that you won't reply until the next day or the next morning. And you need to find and make sure that you're setting that boundary, because once you start to creep into the habit of replying in the evenings and weekends, it's very hard for parents to understand why you're not continuing to do it. Number 3 is to make sure you're leaving at least 2 days per week a little bit earlier than what you would normally. So leaving by 4:30, at least 4 o'clock if you can, to give yourself that time and refresh, because actually you're going to show up as a better version of you in the classroom the next day. And number 4 is establishing when and only when are you going to allow these rules to bend. So for example, if there's a safeguarding concern, if it's something that's critically urgent, and I want you to know exactly what that list is, and I promise you it will not be more than 2 or 3 bullet points, because on the top of my head now I can't even think of 2 or 3 that would be that urgent that you have to drop all these rules. And that's the only time that you're going to let these boundaries swerve, is when these things crop up, not when there's a pile of freaking marking to do, because that can be done. We know it can be done, and it doesn't need to be done right here and there and now. It's a boundary. Now, the other area that I want to talk about in boundary setting is the emotional boundaries around teaching. Now, this is a really important one to navigate, because I found when I was a teacher, the stress from the job made me super anxious a lot of the time. And me understanding how to navigate and take control of those emotional boundaries from the role really helped and supported me in terms of coming a long way with my gut health issues. I've spoke to so many teachers who struggle and suffer with IBS, and if this is you, then this is a real clear message that you need to start setting some emotional boundaries between yourself and between the job, because that is such an important area to really unpick. And actually, I feel like that could be a whole video on its own, which I will do. But just to be very clear, these are some of the emotional boundaries that when I set these in stone, I really started to see some changes in how I responded to things going on and how my body would respond to things as well. So the first one was kind of allowing my to-do list to be a never-ending to-do list. I very much learned that in teaching, your to-do list is going to always be never-ending, and is very much about prioritizing the tasks that are going to get done over completing every single task on the list. That's really important. You need to learn to prioritize the absolute important, and then when you have the time to build extra in and do those things at the bottom of your to-do list, I get that it's annoying, I get that it's frustrating, I get how difficult that is, I know how difficult that is, then you go and do that, you go and tick that off. But between now and then, you give yourself the time to do the absolute what you need to do, the necessary, and then you come back to the other things when you've got a bit more time. Number two is delegating. You have got support in the classroom for a reason, and I've quite often always done this, but if you have a TA, if you have support around your year group, then delegate that responsibility over, because there's not one adult in that room who is constantly working with a child or whatever that might be. And there's always an opportunity, sort of before the kids come in or after the children come in, 15 minutes where they would be more than happy to do something for you. That's their job. So start to delegate and don't feel guilty for that. And, allow yourself to come away from that control a little bit. Number three, and this was a big one for me, is having my meals away from any sort of work commitments. So coming away from this, accepting that it's okay to mark books at lunchtime while I'm eating my dinner, coming away from accepting that it's okay to plan lessons while I'm eating my tea at night. No, it's absolutely not. You're going to use that time to build relationships. The best thing that I did in my teaching career was taking myself either to the staff room to have my dinner with other people, or was taking myself into another classroom where I'd made friends with a different teacher and having my lunch with them. When I was in my last few years of teaching, I had a very, very good friend who I used to work with, and we would literally have lunch together every single day. We would shut our laptops and we would talk about anything else other than the job. And honestly, it was the best thing that we could do for our well-being. It was the best thing we could do in terms of showing up as the best version of us in the afternoon, and just taking ourselves away from this job as a teacher. Having that boundary is so important. Enjoying your food, building relationships over food is so important, and I can promise you your digestion will be so much better from it. Now, I've got to go, but I hope that those boundary settings were helpful in terms of you prioritizing yourself around the busy career. And if you would like some more support with your health and fitness around your teaching career, then why don't you drop me a follow on Instagram at Coach Chrissy, where you can see how I help ladies like you transform their physique, work on themselves outside the classroom, become that confident and better version of themselves instead of being trapped in the same cycle and same rut. Also, subscribe on here as I post weekly videos in a little bit more depth to help you navigate different areas of teaching and how to build this in around your health and fitness to really put yourself first once and for all. Thank you all for listening.